Well, thanks for coming. We've just had our meeting with Secretary of State Villiers, and also very conscious that it took place in advance of the meeting of the combined Unionist and Loyalist parties, which is happening just now across the way. We thought it was important to meet with her, first of all for all of us to acknowledge how satisfied we are that we have got over the 12th of July with peace on the streets, which is very, very important to us and I believe to the entire community. But we're also very conscious that these issues that are out there around the whole aspect of parading the past and how we deal with flag symbols and identity do need to be resolved, and can only really be resolved by all of the parties coming back around the table to negotiate a way forward. And as always, we in Sinn Féin are absolutely up for that and believe that that is an imperative and a responsibility on all parties that want to seek a way forward. Also very conscious that we're speaking to you now against the backdrop of a demand from the combined Unionist and Loyalist parties to what they call should be an inquiry around the situation at Ardoyne. Well, we absolutely believe in the independence and integrity of the Parades Commission, and we do not believe that anything should be done which undermines the authority of the Parades Commission. Whatever approach is adopted, and we're opposed to an inquiry, but whatever approach is adopted on the basis of what has been put forward in what was a very thoughtful determination by the Parades Commission, the outcome of that has to be something that all of the parties and the entire community can live with. That means we have to be satisfied, the SDLP, the Alliance Party, the residents of Ardoyne have to be satisfied that this isn't a lopsided process. This issue is an issue that affects the entire community, and there is a huge responsibility on the decision makers within this process to recognise that only with an holistic approach will we successfully find a way forward. We're passionate about trying to see a resolution of the situation at Ardoyne. I don't think the people of Ardoyne should be going through what they're going through. I also think the Orange Order and the Unionist parties and the way in which the situation was handled vis-a-vis peace on the streets over the 12th of July, is an indication also that there's a recognition that violence on the streets, that conflict on the streets is detrimental to all of us as we try to move forward. So there needs to be a spirit of generosity in all of this, and recognising that we all need to work together in a very collective way to try and resolve these vexed issues.
Did you get a sense from the Secretary of State that she was minded to consider the idea of a commission on the Ardoyne situation?
Well, I mean, as I say, I thought our meeting was very useful, and I think that in the course of our conversation I emphasised what is a very strong view on behalf of our party, that the Secretary of State should take no decision whatsoever that does not find favour with not just the Unionist Loyalist side of this debate, but also the other parties who I think are trying to play a constructive role in terms of ourselves, the SDLP and the Alliance Party, and we can't forget also the interests of the people who live in Ardoyne. So it was a very good meeting. She listened very carefully to what we have to say, and I think she left the room very conscious that we can't have a lopsided approach to resolving these issues.
You say, Mark McGuinness, that you want to bring everyone along, so how do you bring the Unionists along if you're going to block an inquiry that they're asking for?
Well, you see, what Unionist leaders need to recognise is that there can be no lopsided approach to the resolving of the situation at Ardoyne. The responsibility to resolve the situation at Ardoyne rests with all of the parties, all of the stakeholders in that area. And we, as always, as we approach any negotiation or any further development of how we find ways forward, come at all of this with a very positive and very constructive spirit, because the last thing that we need is conflict on the streets. The last thing that we need is, people to be going through turmoil in their lives. And I mean, I said it this morning whenever Rory McIlroy is here, and I'm very conscious of this over the course of the last couple of days. We look at what's happening around the world and the heartbreak and sadness that there is in places like Gaza, in eastern Ukraine, the people who were on MH17, the situation in Syria, situation in Iraq, the situation in Afghanistan. We need to get a life here, folks. We need to recognise that there are terrible things happening in the world, and that in spite of all the flaws and difficulties about our process, we are light years ahead of many of these other situations. So the responsibility now, I think, has to be to find a way forward on these issues of parades, the past, and the whole issue of flag symbols and identity. And when you look at those in the context of the magnitude that is happening elsewhere, that has to be a spur to all of us to try and find a way forward so that we can continue to take stewardship of what is widely seen as one of the most successful peace processes in the world, with all its faults, and continue to move it forward.
So an inquiry's not the answer. What is? More post-Haas talks?
No, what I'm saying, and you need to be very clear about what I'm saying, is that the type of inquiry that has been proposed by the Unionists is a nonsense, in my view. If the Unionists, as some of them have been saying privately, are focused on the determination of the Parades Commission in terms of the issues that they consider to be outside of their remit, then we're prepared to look at that. We're solution finders. What I'm saying very, very clearly, and it should not be lost on the Unionist leaders, the situation at Ardoyne isn't going to be resolved by them cobbling together an agreement for an inquiry with Theresa Villiers to the exclusion of everybody else. That's not the way this process has moved forward successfully over the course of the last 20 years. So it's very, very clear what needs to happen. It needs to be a process that everybody can sign up to.
So you would be happy with an inquiry under certain conditions?
I've just told you that I'm opposed to an inquiry, and I've made that very, very clear. What I'm not opposed to is dealing with the issues that the Parades Commission identified. That doesn't require an inquiry.